he's coming in tomorrow. I kind of like look at that.
So if we do this, we have the kitchen equipment. Let's do it.
Wait. Nowhere even near that. Because what we're looking at here is the kitchen. This three base sink. And then possibly everything's going to be outside. You know, we're doing everything outside on the grill, so it's.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the August 13th Milledgeville Rotary meeting. Please silence your cell phones. And Frank will lead us in prayer pledge and four-way test.
Let's play. Our Father, Creator, thank you for this day and our many that might bless it. We ask for your hand and blessing on this meeting. God, direct our leadership today. Yes, you have your hand on this community. You protect and sustain all of our citizens, especially our young people, those serving abroad who may be harmful. Pray for the health of our community. Pray for guidance every day for our visitors. They would be challenged to give our best always and be assured of your presence with us. Please join me for place of readings.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Is it true? Was declared all concerned? Will it build goodwill and better friendships? Will it be beneficial to all concerned?
Thank you, Frank. Okay. The U.S. Mint printed 1.65 billion coins last month, so please put some of those in those blue buckets. If you don't have coins, dollar bills will work. Do we have a $10 match for last week? Put it in. Thank you, Aaron.
Who's the match?
Aaron? Are there any prayer requests?
Keep praying prayers.
Okay, thank you. All right, when we had the awards a couple weeks ago, we did not provide an award to one of our special members. We want to make it a memorable event for his many years of service and dedication to our club. He's been in our club since 1982 and served many years as a club secretary. In fact, he's instrumental in helping me when I took on the role of secretary. And he remains a recording secretary today to fill in when needed. He also volunteers his time each week to set up, and I know I come in early and the place is all set up, and sometimes he's the only one here. So today, we have an award for Halsey. Any other announcements? Okay, Aaron.
I just had an announcement about a meeting we're having in 2 weeks. Jennifer Pollard's actually going to be here introducing us to her reptiles. So if you do not want to be in the room with live reptiles, you may want to do the WebEx that day. So just kind of keep that in mind.
That's cool.
I'm sorry. Oh, and y'all know I'm new to this. I'm new program coordinator, so I didn't realize I'm supposed to introduce our guest speaker today. So I'd like to introduce John Jackson. He's from Comfort Farms, and he's going to tell us all about what he has going on at Comfort Farms.
Thank you. Can everybody hear me? Good? All right, cool. All right, guys. So my name is John Jackson, I'm the Executive Director of Stag Vets, Inc. I'm the founder of Comfort Farms. A little bit about my history. I served with the 75th Ranger Regiment down at Fort Benning. I did 6 combat tours, spent 11 years in, and I got medically discharged due to wounds sustained at war. With 6 combat tours, I lost a lot of buddies along the way. One of them of which was Kyle A. Comfort, Captain Kyle A. Comfort, really good Ranger buddy of mine who got killed on May 8, 2010. As a Ranger, you know, alpha male and type, you know, with the whole, you know, mentality going in and doing all the stuff that we needed to do. When you come back out, you know, you can't do those things that you used to do. You kind of feel like you lost your edge. And so a lot of people, when they look at veterans, in a way, if they don't have their legs blown off or missing arms or, you know, the ambulatory, they think that they're okay. But a lot of guys like myself, I've been over, I would say, 20 different explosions. Each one of them was a cause of concussion. So there is what we have, traumatic brain injury that over time deteriorates. And if you look at football players, it's become a big thing. If you've been in a car accident, anybody here been in a car accident? Understand that, you know, you understand that when you suffer a traumatic experience, not only does those invisible wounds stay, but also the experience around those things happen, right? And so I came back from war not knowing that, you know, what is this PTSD until, you know, one day I'm sitting there cutting meat with my wife one day, and she took a picture of me from behind, and she took that picture of me, the flash went off. And for me, it was the first time that I've ever experienced anything outside of war. And I'll tell you a little bit what happened. When that picture shot, I clenched up real quick. I didn't know why. She saw it. They started laughing. She said, "What's wrong with John?" I don't know what's wrong. My body starts going into this, like, really, like hyperventilating. I felt a lot of anxiety. I couldn't breathe. I didn't know what was wrong. But I left that room. I walked into the shower. I walked right into the shower with my clothes on, turned on the cold shower, and I sat there and I cried. Well, I don't know why. And for me, my wife didn't know why or anything like that. But later on, I started realizing that when you're in a blast, like right up in an explosion, light travels faster than sound, right? So that light that went triggered a response in me that was very significant to being in Iraq, Afghanistan. I had no control over the response. My body clenched up just like it would in combat, but I was in a safe place I knew, and I couldn't make sense of all that, right? And so what my body was waiting for was the bang. And so for me, like when I'm standing out at the farm and people want to talk when the lightning's coming, I'm like, hey, I got to go. You know, I don't know what it is around. Folks just want to stand out here and want to talk with lightning and everything like that. And I understand that for me, that yes, you know, lightning is dangerous, but for me, it takes on a whole new development for me. And so I don't stand around with that. If I see the flash, someone taking a camera picture of me, I'm okay. If flashes go behind me, no one will know it, but I clench up. And that is a primal response to when you're in combat, because it's either survival or you die. And so when people face traumatic injuries, whether it's through rape or through abuse or through anything like even car wrecks, everything that surrounds that is an impression in their mind or impression in their DNA that's there forever. And so those are the things that we try to make sense of for our veterans when I created Comfort Farms. Because at my most vulnerable spot in my life with coming after war, I needed to talk to the VA. And the VA told me it would take 6 weeks. I didn't have 6 minutes. And I realized that I was on my chart to be in the statistic, to being able to take my own life like so many other veterans do. 22 veterans a day. 22 veterans a day take their life. It's over 100,000 veterans before the war started back in 2000, in the early 2000s. We only lost 5,000 members to actual combat. So think about that. More of our veterans to suicide than we did to just straight on out combat. And so when I came back, my whole purpose was to, I realized if I wasn't getting the help, that if I wanted to save my relationship with my wife and save my relationship with the folks around, that I should just do something. Okay? And we have a word. Any legal people in here, attorneys or anything like that? No? Oh man, good place. All right. But there's a Latin word called sua sponte. It's the Ranger motto. A lot of it's actually a legal term that they use where judges means of their own accord. So if a judge, if a judge says, if something's not happening, the judge says, hey man, I'm just going to do that, well, he's sua sponte. He just, hey, screw you guys, this is what I'm doing. And that's, with the Rangers, that's what we do. We go ahead and sua sponte that. So creating Comfort Farms for me was my form of taking the bull by its horns and addressing the issues that we needed. And ironically, I landed here in Baldwin County, out of all places. I'd never in a million years thought I'd be in the middle of butt crack hot Georgia. Never. All from the city. I had no farming experience except the backyard garden. When I was working with Maranatha and we negotiated the terms of the lease and how I could use the land. They gave 20 acres. It was like someone gave me a whole country to work with on that. But I knew that once I got here, however God planned out for me what I needed to do, I needed to make it work, regardless of what it was. These were the tools that were given me, and I made it work. It's grassroots. I'm not much of a, when you're starting up a nonprofit, they say, hey, you got to go out and do all this fundraising. I don't like a whole bunch of people, so I don't like talking to people. So it's, hey, we're just going to put nose to the ground, brute force it. So let's go ahead and make it happen. We build a beautiful community. We build a beautiful grassroots effort that has pretty much led all over the nation and international. Done work with the BBC, NPR has worked with us several times. We just got the attention of John Deere. They're going to put my face as the national person next year, so you'll see me all over the daggone whatever. But these are the things that are coming because of the great work that we're doing all around. And so, ideally, our mission as a farm, as an organization, is to really help veterans from, I like to say, the root down, not the root up, because you don't see what's going on with veterans care. You don't see what's going on with their quality of life, what that means to veterans. And so like a plant, we have to affect it in the soil, we have to affect it in the microbiology. If the soil is good, everything else is good. So what can we take care of that other people are not? A lot of people think just because a veteran gets a house or a home or those things that he has a much better quality of life, and that's so not it. We have a lot of veterans that are homeless and displaced because they choose to be, because they feel as though that that society doesn't care, that the VA doesn't care. And so with that being said, they much rather want to be misplaced or displaced out of society. And so how do you affect that? Giving them a job is not going to help. Putting money in the bank is not going to help. Giving them a car is not going to help. Those things add up to small measures, but quality of life is the most important thing. Our thing is, as a servant to the community, as a servant to my country, I went to war. I sacrificed the most precious thing, my life, for the betterment of others. And I thought that with our nonprofit, in order to address what really affects veterans, is to give them that aptitude for service. And so I decided, what would we do to actually do that? I mean, everybody needs food orders. Everybody needs food. And the thing that we're missing the most is that most of us come from a rural background. Most of us, especially here in Middle Georgia, when I start looking at the history prior to manufacturing and things like that, it was a rural community that thrived. Farmers always got the bad end of the stick. Farmers never were respected in a way because of their hard work, even down to today where big corporations have manipulated our dairy industry, which is right here in Eatonton, have really milked these organizations. Used to be hundreds of dairies all over the place. Now we're down to the last 5 or 6 years, right here in our own backyards. And so for me, it's kind of one of those things that, I love the underdog. I love when people say, no, you can't do that, or you can't do that. Look, my new mission, the same thing that I've told a lot of veterans, is to come here, we help our community partners so that we can thrive. And one of the things that I did, one of the most best programs that we've ever did was when I walked to the dairy farmers and I talked to them and I said, listen, I want to take your beef, put it on center of plate up in Atlanta to compete with some of the best beef national. They laughed. Said, nobody's going to buy dairy. I said, just give me a chance. You're selling it for dog food or you're shooting in the head and burying it someplace. So, like Trump, what do you got to lose, right? So it's like pretty much we start talking about that. And they said, okay. And so after about 8 to 12 cattle, we kind of honed in on the best type of beef, dairy beef that we're actually going to use. And that's what we started putting through. Our beef got onto the top menus of some of the top restaurants here in the state. We've had people that come down and said it was the best steak they've ever had. We've sat down and I took those farmers, sat them down with some of high-level folks who've been out to Las Vegas, LA, and New York to actually sit down and eat this beef. They said this is the best steak they've ever had. And there was one thing that we, as an organization, ran towards that most people ran from, which was the fact that these dairy cows were 6 to 8 years old. And when you think about that, most people think, well, 6 to 8 year old cow is like shoe leather. Not the case. Right here in Eatonton, these guys take really good dairy cows for a very long time. They grow most of their feed with grain, and they even got daggone massage parlors where they massage themselves. And when the cows want to get milk, walk up and milk themselves. And they found out that by using a system, a happy cow produces more milk. And if it produces more milk than it does, probably the meat quality is going to be better too. And what we found out right here in Eatonton is that with this program, that our beef is rated prime or twice. So we are rated prime or twice, and we're charging it at the 2/3 upper choice for master choice for what you get on hands. And so you get a really good quality piece of beef at the master choice price, but it's double the quality of that. And that's what we were able to do. My whole point was being able to give these farmers additional income much better than what they were getting from the USDA, because we take pride in our farmers. And I think as a serviceman who goes out and sacrifices the majority of his life for the better good of others, our farmers do the same thing. Our farmers are out there feeding our communities and not getting the respect that they deserve. And so we married these two missions on being able to take care of our farmers, being able to take care of our vets, by giving our vets a sense of purpose to help a population within our communities thrive again. So that's where we're at. This whole brings us up to building resiliency. The number one thing to offsetting any type of issues that we have is being able to be resilient. There are going to be things that's going to come down the pipe that we're not expecting. We have to be flexible. And one of the things that I tell a lot of my veterans who come to the farm, because they do show up, beaten and broken, they feel like they're disabled. And our whole point is, if a vet shows up disabled, we want them to leave. We want them to leave. And so part of our farm is to generate and create a space where it's kind of like a smart farm. You know, we're trying to encourage new farmers to come into this new wave of farming. Number one, most of them don't have the farms are not being passed down to them. They don't have the money to get thousands and thousands of acres of farms. So they're going to have to grow on intense. They have to grow intensely and sustainably on small acreage. And so one of the things that we kind of focus on is using what you got, and I call it my low-hanging fruit, right? What's your low-hanging fruit? You might want to do this, but what do you have around you that you don't have to necessarily, do a lot of work at? And that's your business plan needs to be around that. When I came here, I said, hey, I'm only going to grow a certain variety of vegetables that's only going to work. And I said, first year, I'm going to just throw everything in there, and whatever works, then we're going to deal with that. Well, I did that, everything grew. So I'm like, well, that's a problem in itself. So, you got a small farm and you can't make a whole bunch of money off of everything. You got to really kind of consolidate that. And so another thing that we learned as far as like resiliency and moving forward and helping small farmers, whether you're a vegetable or not, is to kind of focus on the niche. And so one of the things that I really kind of honed in on at Comfort Farms was raising heirloom seeds. There's every person here understands what it was like for grandma's tomatoes or the beans or things like that. And, these seeds, they tell stories, right? We always say we have an event, gentleman, he brought some seeds from that event that on part of that Heritage Day, the theme of that event was if seeds could tell a story, what stories would we tell? And so you come in and you don't know the history of your food, and you learn about those things. It's just more impactful. And so Comfort Farms has myself with Baker Creek Seeds, High Mowing Seeds, some of the best rare seed companies in the world. They've kind of hired me, paid me to come out and speak about our program. We're now in the throes of turning Comfort Farms part of Comfort Farms into a living heirloom museum for vegetables. So that way people can come in and they can look at the different varieties of corn that we're growing from Cherokee and the corn that was subsistence like our Sea Island white flint corn that was very integral in all the captive slaves in this area. That's the food they ate. I tell a lot of black folks that you wouldn't be here for that corn. It means something to you. You want to learn more. People want to learn their history and they want to understand how all of this integrates into our society for us to make a better future for ourselves. And so we find ourselves growing the comfort food of our people on Comfort Farms in so many ways. And it was one thing that I learned when I was overseas. It was we were dealing with these sheets, people that were out there killing frozen distance with. And, at some point, we got to sit down and we got to talk with these folks. And so arrangements were made where we would have dinner. And for the first time, to sit across the table from folks who were our enemies and things like that, it was foretelling because over food, over music, we had conversations. We took those 20-foot walls and we brought them down to 3-foot walls. The wall is still there, but when I'm looking over it, I'm looking at another human being. I'm not looking at some fabricated idea in my mind of what's going on. And so that's the power of what food does. The food that we have brings people together. Everybody in this room likes those are the things that we can all, we focus on what we have in common instead of what we don't. And food and music was one of the things that really helped formulate my opinion about that it does bring stubbornness because we can. And so with that, I took my ideas about life, about how I'm moving forward, things that I need to do, and I kind of put this into the life of our organization. Stag Vets is the acronym. Stag is Strive to Achieve Greatness. And that means literally, sometimes as a vet or non-vet, you're going to fall. It's going to feel like the world's closing in on you. You're probably probably not going to have a team there to help you get up. So you got to dig deep, find intestinal fortitude to get up and to do it. And when I became a ranger, that's one of the things that they did. They stripped you of everything that you thought you knew of as a man, to the point where you're wanting to call your mother. You know, they force you to go to that place. It's really, really hard. And once you get to that place, that's when they say, hey, now it's your time to lead. How could you lead when you can't even lead yourself? But that's the difference between people who are able to dig deep, move forward, go to the next level, versus those who actually quit. And so I understand what it means to quit. I understand what it means to push harder. So as a veteran who understands that from the trenches, you know, when our vets come, we have been extremely successful in the amount of people that we've been able to help, families and the veterans who come. Every veteran who comes to our space feels inspired to do something. They might not go farming. They might have spent their time farming at the farm, but these guys go in, and they enroll in college. They go in, they're going back to their wives to communicate much better. They're exposing some of their deep-seated things that they've been dealing with, and now they're better communication. They're feeling the allotment to go out to be more with their families, and that's what success looks like. Not having money or things like that. It's having much better quality of life. So that's what we do over at Comfort Farms. So we're in this COVID environment. COVID has really given us so many challenges. I will tell you guys, most of our funding comes from our agribusiness. We sell to the community. We sell to about 50 restaurants in the state. We developed a beef program. We have a beef pork program. We work with community partners now, and we work with farmers around the region. We're rocking and rolling. COVID hit in February. All of our funding from last year was gone, just totally gone. With one phone call, with the distribution team that I set up, the guy said, "Hey man, we can't do this. We don't know what's going on. Restaurants aren't buying anything." And all of our eggs were pretty much in the basket to make sure that we could sustain. Well, I had 16 seconds to figure out. In 24 hours, we had a website up for our community. Because what I saw was this thing is happening. This is going to lead to this. People are going to want access to local food, and we're in a position to maintain local food system to give our community the security that we need. Well, once that website went up, we were owed, thousands and thousands of dollars from our restaurant members to keep us going. And I knew I wouldn't get that money back anytime soon. But once we pivoted towards the online sales to the community, in about 14 days, we recouped all of our losses and some, and moved forward. That has helped us out greatly. It has given our community a sense of security, knowing that, if our food system, which is coming across America to our supermarkets, that gets, if that gets disturbed, they have a local means to actually buy from local farmers here. And I am so happy that our team has been an integral part of this community. And so, with that being said, we are looking towards the future now. We were just awarded 2 grants that are total just a little bit over $1 million for my vision, which is to turn Comfort Farms into an agricultural academy being brought back here in Baltimore. The issues that we have for restaurants, agriculture folks, is that they don't have the workforce and the technical prowess of individuals coming into the workspace to help advance their organizations. So where we as a nonprofit grants to do, these grants have enabled me to hire the necessary folks and make strategic partnerships that's available so that way we could go ahead and huge recruitment of veterans from all over the state, the country, even non-veterans, get them into this program. What that's going to do is it's going to afford our the program that we came up with. It's called Sustainable Small Farmers Agricultural Technician Program. That's being piloted through Central Georgia Tech with the help of Georgia College and also Fort Valley University. So these guys are going to come in. It's a 16-week course. Pretty much going to be offered twice a year, and they're going to get 17 credit hours once they complete this course. Some of our challenges is housing, okay, in which most everyone has that same situation. You know, a lot of people want to come to the farm, they want to come to the course. Where are they going to stay? So we're trying to figure out how do we work with housing, how do we develop housing, possibly on a farm or another place that's outside where our students can come and learn. We bring about to Comfort Farms, ironically, about 10,000 people or so that come to our farm, visits, and events, and things like that. That's a lot of being brought here and involved. They're spending money in this space, and it's getting more. We just did another cooking channel show with anybody seen Man Fire Food? Yeah, so we were on Man Fire Food recently. Chef Roger McKee, me and my wife would watch potatoes. You ever see that episode? It's funny. But and my son ate a big eyeball on that thing. Unedited. That's what he did. But those are the things that a lot of these, because Georgia has become kind of the Hollywood of the South, and a lot of these production studios are out here. They're looking for good field stories, and they love what Comfort Farms has done. They follow us on social media, and I'm getting talked about it all the time. I mean, there's a lot of things going on in the backdrop right now with regards to Comfort Farms. I'm just being quiet about it because I'll be honest with you guys, it's a bit much. You know, I just want to be a pig farmer. You know? Do these things, and I understand talking and telling about our stories. So, I mean, that's the future of our space, of what we're actually doing, and I'll kind of open up the questions if you guys have. Yes, sir.
So, wow. So, first I want to thank you for your service. And I want to say I graduated from Citadel. I did my jumps this summer in 1980. Hot as hell. That was when they made us wear army boots. We couldn't wear tennis. How can we help?
Yeah. So I always get that. Always get how can we help, and understanding in full context that my brain right now, there's so many ways to help. Right. The most immediate things for us is my 25-meter target, okay, is really getting the farm up and running and sustainable. So that way we're most of our funding comes from what do you call it? From an agribusiness, being able to sell, right? But what we do need to get donations in. That's going to help me hire a full-time farm manager, 2 assistants, and eventually a psychologist that's there to be able to absorb our vets. Right now, we're doing it all volunteer. Volunteer is great, but after 4 years of doing that, with the amount of issues that we see that comes in, we really need a more sustainable approach to that. So,
Do you have a board, business plan that
yes.
you want to present?
Yes, I have. Yeah, we have all of that. I don't have that right now with what I do. I can share that with you. Yes, sir.
So the vets, you have vets just come in and say, I just want to.
Yeah, yes, and so what we are is an acute veterans crisis agriculture center. So with acute meaning that a vet is experiencing crisis, they lost faith in the VA. We don't want them to end up with fighting the police because that's just terrible. We don't want them to shoot themselves or hurt somebody else. So oftentimes I get a call in the middle of the night about the vet that's having a really hard time. Might be across the country, a place like that. I'll stay up all night, talk to them on the phone if they're local. we go ahead and get some preliminary information and see where they're best needed. We're doing, what do you call it, background checks right now, because a lot of vets are not who they say they are, right? So I've got to make sure that once they come in, it's a family rental place, so we have kids, we have women, we want to keep everyone safe. So once they're able to pass that, we get vets in, they'll stay for a couple of days, get their head clear. And it's usually around day 3 or 4, where after they've worked the dog's night out of themselves on the farm, that they're able to really kind of focus in on their issues and problems rationally. And that's the biggest thing for us, because they're the driver's seat. So we give them their ability to control their life.
Just as a plug, buy food, it's great. Some of the entree type things you do on Saturday, it's cool. It expands your horizon. I tried bulkhead stew, but it's good.
You like it?
Yeah, I mean, you just gotta kind of roll the dice and, but the meat and stuff that's out there is really nice.
Thank you, sir. And to piggyback off of that, our chefs come down, they fly in from across the country. A lot of chefs are in Atlanta who have lost work. These guys come down, and when we do feature a chef, I don't tell a lot of these things, but a lot of our chefs are super depressed. They're going through a really hard time. And one of the things that makes them feel extremely great is to come down here and give back to the community. So if you guys see if we're featuring a chef, understand and knowing that, they flew down on their own dime, they came down on their own dime. They don't want anything but to give back to the community and the opportunity to work with veterans in that space. And it's been a beautiful, beautiful thing. We stopped it because of the heat. It's just been terrible. But we're going to pick it back up, towards the end of August, going into September again, where we'll have chefs in this COVID environment, maintaining safety.
Do you need more acreage than 20 acres?
Possibly. We could definitely use a little bit more acreage. We're butting right up to Dr. Boyd's place. If we bought another 25 off of that, it would give us room to put a parking lot and, proper things going on. When I started this, sir, back in a couple of years ago, it was like I'm escaping from society. I'm just going to pig farm, and that's not the plan, So, but yeah, a little bit more acreage could help. We're trying to do the best.
What is special?
Good question. So right now, some of the specialty crops that we're really focused in on were what the captive slaves brought in from Africa and around the world, right? So cowpeas, right, are a huge thing. It's funny, those Thailand peas those peas from Thailand, even though they're from Thailand, they grow very much like a purple hull pea, but they've been developed in Thailand to disseminate different characteristics. And so those are the things that we kind of talk about when folks come in, like the history of our seeds, where they move from, how they're utilized, and things like that. We're growing a lot of different kind of like Peruvian peppers. The cool thing on the farm right now is called a habanada. So it's like a habanero pepper, but it's not. So it's like the moment you bite into it, you feel that overwhelming sense of heat, and then it turns into like mango fruit, and it just tricks you. So, really great pepper, that gets a lot of people, but it's great for sauces and things like that. I'm growing right now what they call a groundnut, which is very indigenous to Africa. So it's like the cowpea. Instead of growing out like most of our cowpeas, they grow underground like a peanut. 25% protein, 65% carbohydrates, all the amino acids. It's a complete food, very underutilized everywhere. And I think the other acronym for it is hog nut. I think that if we can get that going, it would be a great hog food for not only hog food, but I mean, it will be great as a hog food, but any type of food, you know. So, and I'm doing. I just got asked to do collard green trials. So 20 different rare collard greens from the Seed Savers Exchange they sent to me, and me and a small group of people across the country are doing these collard green trials. So, yes, there is more than one collard green.
Thank you.
All right, thank you guys.
Thank you so much. Just to let you know, you talked about Baker Creek. They do have a big catalog, has a lot of good stories in it. And what's on the tables is just a picture of the bean that's in that catalog. Of course, you can find John's picture. Okay, are there any other announcements? Remember, in 2 weeks, there'll be some reptiles here.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, man. Feet needs to go, huh?
I'm Jack Pratt. I'm going to read.
Thanks, man.
I'm the chairman of the board. You remember Milledgeville? No. How about David Sanders? You may have served with him.
That name sounds familiar.